Hey guys, Bart the Nature Guy here. Week 3 is all about food. So this is going to be kind of a one-on-one on real common ways people cook while they're camping. You see behind me there is a fire pit. We'll get to that another week. This is going to be more about kind of using a 2-burner stove and a 1-burner stove. What are some of your options, and also some of the basic food, just kind of some things I've learned over the years of camping that made life a little bit easier for me out there and for many others as well. So one of the things I wanted to show you this week is actually kind of what they call a 2-burner stove. So this is a camp stove. You can kind of see it comes in pretty enclosed. Just to go over it a little bit, it has a lid like this, but it stays moving. So it just flips over backwards, and then it has like these bat wings on it. So, but they all go together to stand up. And so there's a couple of reasons for that. So number one, we'll put this up, and these little bat wings have like a, you won't be able to you might be able to see it on in the camera, but there's almost like a little paper clip here. And it just slides into place, and it'll actually hold this up. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, obviously you want to hold the lid up, but that really condenses the space nicely for wind protection. So today was really windy. If you were cooking and you had a wind coming across, it's really going to suck a lot of heat away from your actual cooktop. And so this cooktop has a grate. Most of these grates are removable, so real easy. And then just like on if you have a gas stove at home or ever seen someone with a gas stove, two pieces right here. The flame comes right out of these places. And there's a couple other parts to this as well. So we have the main body right here. We have the grate that you set your pots and pans on top of. And then you also have this regulator. So this actually goes from the stove itself to the propane. And so this is a propane gas stove. Usually they're somewhere in the back or on the side. This one happens to be on the side right here. There's a little space, a little kind of screw that you just put that on. It doesn't take long to do. All these are a little bit different, so as I'm doing this, it kind of takes a little bit of a feel to understand how it screws on, but it's kind of like if anybody has like a car or anything that you work on, lawnmower, everything's got little quirks to it. Most stoves do too. Most of these propane canisters that you can purchase almost anywhere, so if you take off and for any reason you forget about them, don't worry about it. You can pick them up at almost any kind of like major, like kind of big gas station. That's especially if you're going out camping. Very common to be along the highway. You'll see kind of like a more major gas station. Any of those big ones will have these. Usually any like Target or anything will sell these. So one thing to remember is this is a finite amount of gas, so for your stove, so it doesn't last forever. So there's some things that you can do to kind of make sure you maximize your usage, and we'll kind of go over those a little bit today. Most of them come with a little cap on there. It's really important because in the end here, this is all pressurized gas, so it's no different than almost like if you've ever heard like a lighter, like will have a little hiss to it. This stove will also have that same hiss, and it comes from the gas being pressurized here. And when you screw this into the base here, and I'll spin this around for you. So there's this base right here. The nice thing is it has like a little leg, and this goes straight upside down. Straight up and down, it just screws in and stands upside down right into this piece. And now the gas is actually being regulated through that metal tube right here, going into these 2 burners. I'm going to turn one on. You can probably hear it. That is propane gas. Propane gas, when it burns, not all, I mean, there's just certain things that burn really hot and different levels of almost like flame. Propane is really hot. You got to be really careful with this stuff. So I just encourage you to have the people around you that can help you with this kind of thing. Definitely don't try this on your own if you're feeling comfortable with anything like this. This can be really dangerous and cause a lot of injury. So propane burns at a very high temperature, and it just can singe you really quick. One of the things, if you've ever tried to if you ever have like a lighter and you're trying to light a candle, I'm going to use a cup, and you're trying to put your hand inside to try to get it like a tea, like a little tiny candle. You're and you can burn yourself because the flame's going up, and you're trying to put your hand down in. That happens with these stoves as well, especially if you keep these grates on there. Keep the grate on, you're trying to reach your hand through the grate. So I really encourage you to take the grate off, light from the side. I will do this just so you can hear it. Need that flame, it lights, and that is a very hot flame. I can feel that way up in here. So gotta be really careful. The hard part also is like, I can't even see the flame right now. So it doesn't give you an indicator. Like a lot of propane or gas stoves inside your home will have almost like a blue color to it. When you're outdoors like this, you gotta listen for it and make sure you can hear that hiss. Number two, I'm gonna reach my hand around this way actually so I don't burn myself. And but it's hard to see. So just something to kind of keep in mind is that flame tends to stay very, very hidden in kind of the outdoor world. So I will almost always keep a lighter, or I will keep, this is a flint and steel when we get into more primitive fire building stuff later this year. I'll show you this, but this basically creates a spark. I will often just keep one inside here, so that way when I show up on site, I'm not looking for where my match source or my light source is to kind of get these things started. It's all together. So I keep the metal regulator here that's on the side, that thing I screwed in, the grate and everything is all together. So all I need is this, and what my light source is also in here, so I'm not looking for it later, especially if it's in the dark or anything like that. When you're cooking, it is not an oven, so it is all stove top. In regards to like purchasing materials, I tend to be pretty cheap on things. So kind of pre-COVID life, I will say camping gear was very easy to find at like a Goodwill, Value Village kind of place, secondhand garage sales. But now everybody's camping right now because people aren't traveling and doing big trips, they're doing little trips. So people are really buying this kind of stuff up. So, but previous, I would say I've walked into Value Village and saw these at like $7, $8 a piece. So, and then you can get pots and pans, like one pot, one pan. Silverware, you know, silverware right now, I just use my old takeout stuff. So, you know, oftentimes like right now, a lot of people aren't going into restaurants, but people still enjoy their favorite restaurants. And so they're ordering takeout, and oftentimes it comes with like forks and spoons and stuff with it. I've just been saving that and throwing it in my gear. Most of the time I use plastic cups and plates. That way things don't break. So if something were to fall off the side at like a campsite, a lot of kids and adults tend to wear flip-flops or be barefooted in campsites. So I try to avoid glass when I can, but I definitely try to wash and reuse as much as possible. But now with COVID, I've kind of gone on the paper plate route. And so paper cups, plates, and bowls for everything. Lots of napkins to keep our hands clean. And then, you know, there's more like solid. This is just like, I think this is like IKEA, you know, silverware. So very simple, like kind of kids stuff. Again, you don't want to drop a knife on the ground and have somebody step on it and have it go through their foot. So I tend to use almost, unless I really need it, I keep it like the most simple, basic kid style stuff that I can. That way it doesn't cause harm to somebody. So you can get into more metal stuff. This is kind of a cool little camper. I'll show this to you. This is kind of a little cool little fork and knife combo. So it's got folds out like a pocket knife. And then it's got a spoon on the other side. So kind of fun, kind of a cool little gadget that you can get when you kind of like get into camping. You can find some kind of interesting things that actually, if I'm backpacking, this is like all I'll bring. So definitely helps me on backpacking, but backpacking food's very different than being able to have a cooler next to you, have a car, you know, have your stuff in your car. When we get into backpacking food, it's a whole different deal of dehydrated food and just adding water to a lot of things. And so, and just knowing your water safety is more important at that point than the food itself, because the food itself is all kind of pre-done and makes it really easy. There's lots of ways to do it that's economical as well. So, but this is a finite amount of gas, and so I don't like to, like, if I had, let's say I wanted to make some spaghetti for dinner. Camping, some people really get into food and spending lots of time around the campsite in the camp kitchen area. For me, I tend to like to hike and do other things, so I like to come in and eat and not really spend a ton of time on it, but I do like my food to be really good too. So I found a way to, instead of like spending all this time boiling water and boiling like noodles that are hard, I will actually pre-do my noodles. So I've actually cooked them. They're already soft and ready to go. I put those in a cooler, take them out, and then instead of having all that time spent boiling the noodles to go from the kind of the hard consistency that they come in out of the package to make them soft noodles, all I'm doing is doing this, putting those in, they're warming up. Obviously I'm taking them out of the Ziploc bag, so same thing here. What's nice about, like, this is kind of the pasta sauce, this is the red sauce. One thing you can do with this is freeze it. So instead of, I don't know if anybody's ever gone camping, but there's tons of times where you go camping and like, I can't tell you how many times I've opened up a cooler on like day 2 and all the ice is melted. All of this is like, you know, everything's floating. especially if you have something like Ziploc, like bagels or bread or tortillas or anything that has like a twist tie on it. It's all soggy and gross. You got like lunch meat, floating around in a ice bath pool inside your cooler. It's gross. So I really try to avoid too much ice. I try to use things like this. Even like freezing, like taking a half-gallon milk jug, like a plastic one, putting some water in it and screwing that down and then using that for your ice packs. There's obviously pre-made packs as well, but what I like about the water is actually you can drink it then too. So not only do you're bringing a water source as well as having a frozen source for your cooler. So something to kind of keep in mind, pre-doing noodles, pre-doing almost everything. You can do chilies, stews, soups, all like this, frozen. That's actually becomes your ice source and your cool source for your cooler. But then as it melts over the days, boom, you pop it in. One thing I'd also say is I try to avoid raw foods or raw meats especially. So like I don't bring any raw chicken or raw beef or pork or anything like that when I go out. If you are a meat eater, not everybody is, so they're not even needing to pay attention to this. But if you are, I really encourage, for myself, I found it much easier to buy like fully cooked brats or fully cooked hot dogs. That way I'm not handling raw meat in a camping situation where I'm needing to use soap and water. Again, just like this gas here that's kind of a finite or you have only so much. Same thing with water oftentimes camping. It's not always readily available, so you want to use the least amount of possible. And so if you're able to kind of take a fork and not even have like raw meat on that fork, but just have a fully cooked hot dog or brat, and you're able to put that into the water and boil it up or put it over the flame, and you're not having to worry about some of the foodborne illness disease pieces, that can be a huge help and make life a lot easier. So that's just one little tip for me that I found. I've tried it. I've definitely made like a marinade and put like chicken in marinade and try to cook it over the stove or over open flame. But I found it's much easier just to pre-do it. Even if it's a hamburger and pre-cooking the hamburger, at least you just heat it up, put it over the stove, put it in a pan, just let it heat up, and then you have a hamburger that's already cooked and you're just kind of heating it up. So, and you're not using so much gas to do that as well. So I'm going to move over here. I'm going to show you my van here in a little bit. A lot of people, when I pull up in school, it's mostly teachers. I'm in the teacher's lab, but they're like, what's going on with that van? So it is a camping style van. It does have an oven in the back, so I am going to show you since we are talking about cooking. So now, what I wanted to show you here, I'm going to turn this way a little bit. So number one, I just showed you the 2-burner stove. This is actually a 1-burner stove. So this is very similar to what you just saw. You turn that on, you can hear the hiss. You light it from here, same way. Instead of having that whole stove there, you're just simply balancing it. The nice thing is that it comes with a little stand, so it creates some stability. It just pops off and pops on, so very easy to use, especially because in my van I have an oven. So if I'm doing anything big, I tend to cook in there, but if I want to just make some coffee in the morning or some tea at night, real easy for me just to heat up some water there. And it uses the same propane canister in the oven as well. So it is just using these small green canisters of propane for the oven and for this 1-burner and for the 2-burner. So it's a pretty common usage. I wanted to show you some of the foods. I'm going to kind of get down here and talk a little bit about the foods I tend to bring or find that, move this just a little bit. So some of the foods that I find useful, definitely starting off in the morning. I love bringing dried fruit in the morning. So like dried mango, just a pack of dried mango, very easy. Mango, for whatever reason, fills me up more than other dried fruits, and so I'm not hungry just an hour later or whatever. You can always do breakfast bars. You know, there's tons of breakfast bars out there. What I tend to find is good for a day, good for a snack, but if I'm like packing a bunch of these things and it's going to be my breakfast and I'm not going to cook anything, which is great, these tend to be like kind of get monotonous in regards to like texture. And it's kind of like this breaded thing that goes around some sort of like dried jelly mixture in the middle and gets kind of old and gross after a while for me. I tend to like having a variety of textures in my food and also fresh flavors. And so I tend to think I'll do this for a week. So I was camping a couple years ago for like a week and I ate this I think every day for breakfast. And all it is I tend to find tortillas are more helpful than camping than bread. If anybody's ever been camping and had this happen, the squished bread scenario, because you packed it tight. You take it out and all of a sudden your bread looks all like weird. That happens all the time. And so I found it just easier to bring tortillas. I'll bring a ton of them. You can also freeze them really easy. You can pack on top of them and flatten them, put a lot of weight on them. Nothing's going to happen to it. A real common breakfast for me. I love, again, I'm not going to eat a banana. Bananas get bruised out in the woods. I'm not a big bruised banana person. Like I can eat a banana, but ugh, I don't want that brown gushy thing. So here we go. Nice fresh apple. Very common thing for me to have for snacks. I'll bring a bunch of these, as many as I can carry weight wise. If you're car camping or have like a van like this, you can bring a pile of these. So I like it because they fill me up a lot. I don't tend to mind a little bit of bruising on an apple, different than the banana. But I oftentimes will just cut these up in thin slices. Love peanut butter. Not everybody can do peanut butter, so I get that with nut allergies. Obviously, there's sun nut butter and almond butter and all that, but something to kind of keep in mind for me is I like this because it doesn't need to be refrigerated. So real easy to have an apple, some peanut butter, and then I tend to bring granola. And those three things in combination, if I spread a little bit of peanut butter down, lay down the fresh apple slices, and then add a little granola over the top and make a little breakfast burrito like that, I'll eat that for days. I love it. I like a lot of cinnamon for a little bit of a morning piece for me. It's really good. So I like a kind of everybody's got different flavors. Some people like blueberry granola. I like a heavy cinnamon, almondy kind of granola. Pick whatever you like. Works really well. Again, in regards to foods, I look for things that don't bruise. So fresh vegetables. So if I'm car camping and I have the space availability, weight's not an issue. I'm definitely going carrot and broccoli. I can cook it in the spaghetti sauces. I can eat it plain. I eat carrots all the time plain. Again, they fill me up a lot. Same thing with this. And also it's a great snack, and it's very easy for me to bring like ranch dressing, but it can also just be in little packets. So you don't have to bring the whole jar. You can just bring a few of those packets over a couple days and just lay that out, or just put it right on there, and you're avoiding the dish of needing to like put the ranch dressing in something to dip the carrot. Just take that little packet out and just wipe it all over here, and then you're eating that, and you're golden. So super easy, don't bruise easily. Also other things to cook with, things like potatoes and onions don't tend to bruise really easily, and also you tend to cook them a lot. So again, onions, I'm not a big fan of raw onions. I would probably more likely pre-cook these and have like a little Ziploc of pre-cooked onions, so I'm not wasting that energy getting that from raw to cooked. But I do love onions and potatoes. Again, way to pre-cook that, but again, they don't bruise easy. They are pretty heavy, but something to just kind of keep in mind. Often another breakfast for me would be instant oatmeal. Super easy, just to heat up some water, have a little bowl, put a couple of these packs in, and get me going. So if I need something a little bit warmer, it's getting cool out like it is right now in the fall, this is an easy way to do that as well. Eggs, a lot of people love like making bacon and eggs in the morning when they cook. You know, when you are gonna get a pot, you know, going for scrambled eggs, here we go, we have our pot. You're gonna crack the egg, and then you have the egg in your hand, and it's kind of usually a little bit of egg gets on my hand when I crack an egg, and then you have to put the egg shell somewhere, and then you have this thing. And if I talk about that cooler scenario, a lot of the times these get really, really soggy because the ice kind of just, water finds a way all the time. And so now you have the egg shell in your hand. You don't want to really have that kind of broken food product around that attracts animals. So one thing I found easy to do is to pre-do my eggs. So I pre-crack the eggs. I'll add actually in here butter. I'll add in all sorts of like garlic and anything that I want for salt and pepper, basic stuff, nothing fancy. But there's a pat of butter. I don't know if you can see it right there. There's a pat of butter right there where my thumb is. Adds all the flavor, a little bit of non-stickness to it as well, so it gives me a little bit of the good fats that I need to get through a heavy day of hiking. And so just kind of knowing that I have all my protein here, and again, it's pre-done, comes in a little box like this. And if you do get a little bit of that kind of the ice starts to melt in your cooler, and this is like bobbling around, really not that big of a deal. It's a sealed bag. It's very different than having this thing and get all mushy and whatnot. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Pre-doing your eggs is another easy little camp hack that I've learned over the years that is helpful. And lastly, we do have to make sure we have our chocolate, our mellows, and our grams. s'mores, s'more life. Whether or not you can see the campfire in my background, this is kind of a staple in the camping world. It's super fun. You can't always do it when you're backpacking, but definitely in a car camping situation, this is just something that almost always floats around at some point in my household around a campfire. So love having this with. Little mellow, little chocolate, little graham. It's all good. Lovely s'more life. If you haven't had yourself a s'more, maybe if COVID ends and I'm around in the springtime, maybe we can do a little s'more fest as a celebration at the end of the school year. I hope so. Crossing my fingers. So the last thing I wanted to show you before we get on with our day and you guys get on with your classes is the van. So I wanted to show you, I'm actually going to just take this off. So if you ever see me roll in school, sometimes people will come with me to go get gear out of like I'll have a class come out when we do like last year I dug in with some of the schools. I dug into like the snowbanks and I had all the shovels and stuff in here, and some people are like, oh my gosh, look at this thing. So but there's the oven, so that's in the back of my van. And so it takes the same green propane, it goes actually in the back, and so I can cook pizzas in this. I can do pizza rolls. I do a lot of like frozen burritos that you get at like a grocery store. I'll just go buy a couple of those if I'm going to go out for a couple of days. Little jar of salsa, doesn't need to be refrigerated until I open it, and so that's kind of nice. And so I can heat up some burritos in there. Real simple. You see all this kind of stuff. You see paper towels over my head. So I keep the paper towels really close to the outside of the van, because if there's anything that spills outside, I want to get to it really quick. I actually had them on over here for a while and really found that inconvenient. I kept kind of like having to crawl on my hands and knees to get back in there. So a couple other things. So these are just like little IKEA toy chests that I kind of made. So this is kind of my camper van style, but you can kind of see here I have prep gear, pots and pans. I have a water jug right here. I have garbage bags, which is really important because you need to be able to put everything away, and then more pots and pans. I have first aid and dishwashing stuff, cups, plates and bowls, and then I'm going to rotate you around, and on this side you can kind of see I have coolers. Now these are those like green garden stakes, and so I wanted to show you they basically hold everything so they don't slide out. So these toy chests will just, these little pieces will just slide, and then everything comes dumping out. And it's definitely happened that I've forgotten to put these little green stakes in and everything comes pouring out. But usually I'm pretty good with keeping them in, but that's what kind of keeps everything in place, are those little green stakes. It's a little safety precaution. But there's the oven. It can cook up to about 375 degrees. That changes, that's a game changer. You can make muffins, you can make cakes, you can do all that stuff. Again, I don't get into that much prep on it. So there we go. So some of the basic food concepts in regards to kind of keeping it simple. The 2-burner stove, cups and plates, and again, maybe remembering to pre-cook some food like these noodles and that sauce right here. And there's the 2-burner stove. Take care, everyone. That's a food tutorial 101 in camping. Take care. We'll talk to you later. Bart the Nature Guy. Peace out.